This is the story of how a building style saved a small Midwestern town.
The town is New Glarus, Wisconsin, a small town with a population barely over 2,000 people.
Located about 40 minutes south by car of Madison, Wisconsin. The building style is the Swiss chalet, and this is actually a pretty good example over on my left. It's called the Chalet of the Golden Fleece.
Even though it's thousands of miles outside of Switzerland, it's an extremely faithful example. It's made of wood and features decorative scrollwork, shutters, paned windows, planter box protrusions, and of course a pitched roof with decorative bracketry. And all buildings located within certain regions of this town are mandated by law to follow this formula and appear authentic to a particular time and place in Switzerland.
While this is a faithful reproduction of an authentic chalet, not every building here in New Glarus is quite so thorough in its interpretation of the European building type.
Despite that, this place has been called more Swiss than Switzerland. But for much of the town's life, it looked much more like any other Midwestern town. In fact, most of its Swissification came within the last 50 years. How and why it turned into this pocket of Swiss building stock in the heart of the Midwestern United States is a fascinating story of identity, culture, economics, and architecture.
And I'm here to find out how it happened and what exactly people love about it.
The town of New Glarus was founded in 1845 as a refuge from economic hardships experienced across Europe at the time.
They sent over 2 representatives to the US to scout some land, and they bought a few hundred acres to be able to found the town, and they sent back 200 colonists from Switzerland.
They named the town New Glarus after the place of their origin, Glarus, Switzerland. These people specialized in agriculture and dairy production, and the town flourished as these industries thrived in their American context. At the time, though, the physical town, it didn't look much like their homeland. It didn't borrow any stylistic or architectural traditions. They just didn't need to. Instead, they adopted building techniques that were appropriate for their time and place. Typical shops, houses, and agricultural buildings that you'd find anywhere in the Midwestern United States.
In 1935, a former resident of the town, who was living in New York at the time, offered to donate a supply of items for the establishment of a museum to help the town navigate the financial crisis of the height of the Depression. The museum would be dedicated to commemorating the town's Swiss culture, complete with the accurate replica of a Swiss chalet. They hired an architect that had closely studied Swiss chalets. He produced the Chalet of the Golden Fleece behind me, a perfect replica in every detail of a home that might be found in the Swiss Alps.
It quickly became a point of pride for the town and a rallying center for its citizens to identify with its cultural heritage. This especially came to the surface during festivals or other collective gatherings and celebrations.
By the 1960s, like many small towns across the American Midwest, New Glarus faced another set of challenges. Its dairy and its other industries were drying up, and people were losing their jobs and moving away. It became harder and harder for small towns to participate in the newly forming global economy. A number of local business owners worked together and hired a consultant team to come over and assess the situation. While the museum was somewhat popular, the rest of the town seemed like it had little to offer and just wasn't poised for launching any new industries or businesses. So they decided to lean into tourism by amplifying their Swiss heritage. While its history has undeniably maintained a close connection with their home country of its originators, like when they sent back money to help the struggling town of Glarus, Switzerland, New Glarus didn't really bear the visual landmark of this cultural exchange yet.
The consultants had some suggestions for how to do this, including having citizens dress in traditional Swiss costumes in the summer, in conjunction with a radical change of the town's appearance. It just didn't look Swiss enough to sell the rebrand. So for decades following, the town underwent intense Swissification.
This included the renovation of existing buildings to incorporate more Swiss details, like here at the Sportsman Bar and Grill. Prior to its renovation, this building was a typical American mixed-use building on a main street with a brick facade, commercial program on the first floor, and residential above. Its renovation, driven by the owner's willingness to participate in the town's rebrand, included the wooden facade, the shutters, a narrow balcony with the scrollwork, and most importantly, the appearance of a pitched roof.
This one isn't really a roof for the building. It's more like part of a really thick facade. In fact, the pitched roof is one of the most important components of turning this town Swiss. You see it everywhere. And there's even a correct slope to this roof to maintain its uniformity. That slope is 3.5 to 5.5. This element is so important that it's even carried over to signage, where the slope is never intended to behave as a roof at all.
I find this kind of thing pretty fascinating, when a collective sensibility emerges, really without the intervention of architects. It shows a bottom-up commitment to a cause, and is revealing of what people really care about. Anyway, this transformation happened relatively organically through a collective decision to unify the town visually. While the original chalet was a painstaking architectural reconstruction by an expert, this wave was more of a piecemeal effort from its citizens.
Most of the citizens have never actually been to Switzerland, so they looked at picture books and pulled elements that they could include in their buildings into an assemblage of different signs and symbols. You can read various levels of commitment to the cause, as well as various levels of financial resources. For architects, this commitment to reconstructing buildings from images conjures thoughts of Disneyland and other themed environments. They might be considered superficial, but I think that can be dismissive of the ingenuity and the appeal of places like this, which is a real city.
However, by the 1970s, the town recommitted themselves to another level of authenticity. The Chalet Landhaus was built in 1980 by an architect that had done an extensive amount of research into Swiss architectural forms. Beyond just looking at photos, the architect Stewart took numerous trips to Switzerland to study and gather information. But despite this dedication, it had to be filtered through an American construction techniques and materials.
The end result, though, is a building that is much closer to the original that it's trying to emulate.
While the Chalet Landhaus was new construction, Gallagher also worked on this building here, which was renovation of an existing building. Originally a gas station, the concrete, flat-roof structure now adorns a number of decorated accoutrements like a pitched roof, balconies, and shuttered windows. Here, everything is completely wrapped to hide the original building behind. The commitment to Swissification can be read in the resulting architecture. The town continued the process of this transformation, mostly through collective will and buy-in. But by 1999, the town adopted a new code that ensured that all new construction and renovation would fit the town's aesthetic.
That's the result of Ordinance 99-5, and it states, any and all buildings, structures, walkways, or lighting in the C1 Commercial District or C2 Highway Commercial District in the village of New Glarus shall conform to an exterior design of the Swiss architectural theme adopted by the village and is presently evidenced by the Swiss architecture in the commercial zoning districts of the village. In addition to mandating specific pitched roof shapes and materials like stucco or wood, and outlawing metal siding, the code provides inspiration in the form of 7 picture books of chalets from Switzerland, Bavaria, and Germany. These 500 photographs provide the official definition of Swiss that's meant to be replicated here.
Now every building must be reviewed by the Design Review Committee, consisting of 5 members, which may be architectural designers, but also include building tradespeople, historians, or anyone else that's interested.
And for all intents and purposes, all of this worked. The town supports a thriving tourist and brewery industry. Around 200,000 to 300,000 people visit this town every year. New Glarus Brewing Company is the 15th largest craft brewer and 25th largest overall brewing company in the United States.
In some ways, this story of this town is unique, but in other ways it's totally typical, especially for a Midwestern town. In the land of the world's largest attractions and homelands of obscure historical figures, the will to distinguish a unique identity is quite high, and architecture is a piece of that identity.
In fact, I was inspired to look into this because of a book that some of my friends put together called Swissness Applied. It's a close architectural look at the buildings of the town, and it breaks down some of the cultural forces at play in the endeavor. I highly recommend it, and we'll leave a link down in the description. This video was made possible by Henson Shaving, who makes amazingly high-quality razors in their aerospace machine shop in Canada. This thing is incredible. It's made by craftspeople in a family-run business that also makes parts for the ISS, the Mars rover, and other space satellites. They've taken that expertise and aimed it straight at crafting the perfect razor. Through their research, they found that the way that the razor blade is supported is crucial to the smoothness of its operation. The flexible blade, if it's left too exposed, can result in chatter that causes nicks and cuts and irritation. So Henson machines their razors out of aluminum with incredibly tight tolerances befitting the aerospace heritage. This allows them to expose the minimum amount of actual blade, just 27 microns. The blade ends up being supported along its length, eliminating chatter and eliminating the problems that plague most razors. As soon as you touch this thing, it feels like something that could have been integral to a space station or something. It has all this clever engineering features like the channels that help to easily remove hair and cream. It can also use normal razor blades that cost like 5 cents and are recyclable, making the razor a great investment in a high-quality, earth-friendly, personal item that makes you feel like an astronaut every time you shave. So use the code StewartHicks, one word, in your cart from the link below to get a free 100 pack of blades when you purchase a razor and start getting that high quality shave that you've been wanting today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You'll be served up bi-weekly videos that come out on Thursdays. In the meantime, check out some of these other ones. See you over there.